Canadian Mounted Rifles was part of the designation of several mounted infantry units in Canada in the late 19th and early 20th centuries, units of the permanent active militia. The Canadian Mounted Rifle Corps, formed in 1885, now part of the Royal Canadian Dragoons. The Royal Canadian Mounted Rifles, formed in 1901, now named Lord Strathcona's Horse. Units formed for the Second Boer War. 1st Battalion, the Canadian Mounted Rifles, renamed the Royal Canadian Dragoons in 1900. 2nd Battalion, the Canadian Mounted Rifles, renamed the Canadian Mounted Rifles in 1900, recruited by the Northwest Mounted Police and now perpetuated by the Royal Canadian Mounted Police. 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th Battalion, the Canadian Mounted Rifles, went to South Africa but never saw action. Independent squadrons of the non-permanent active militia, B, C, D, E and F squadrons, P Canadian Mounted Rifles, predecessors of the 12th Manitoba Dragoons, J and K squadrons, P Canadian Mounted Rifles, predecessors of the Mississauga Horse, L Squadron, P Canadian Mounted Rifles, predecessor of the Prince Edward Island Regiment, A, B, C and E squadrons, P Canadian Mounted Rifles, predecessors of the 19th Alberta Dragoons, D Squadron, P Canadian Mounted Rifles, predecessor of the South Alberta Light Horse, G and F squadrons, P Canadian Mounted Rifles, predecessors of the North Saskatchewan Regiment, B and C squadrons, P Canadian Mounted Rifles, predecessors of the British Columbia Dragoons, units of the Canadian Expeditionary Force of the First World War. 1st Regiment, P Canadian Mounted Rifles, 2nd Regiment, P Canadian Mounted Rifles, perpetuated by the British Columbia Dragoons, 3rd Regiment, P Canadian Mounted Rifles, perpetuated by the 19th Alberta Dragoons, 4th Regiment, P Canadian Mounted Rifles, perpetuated by the Governor-General's Horse Guards. 5th Regiment, P Canadian Mounted Rifles, 6th Regiment, P Canadian Mounted Rifles, 7th Regiment, P Canadian Mounted Rifles, perpetuated by the Governor-General's Horse Guards, 8th Regiment, P Canadian Mounted Rifles, perpetuated by the 4th Princess Louise Dragoon Guards, 9th Regiment, P Canadian Mounted Rifles, perpetuated by the North Saskatchewan Regiment, 10th Regiment, P Canadian Mounted Rifles, perpetuated by the North Saskatchewan Regiment, 11th Regiment, P Canadian Mounted Rifles, perpetuated by the British Columbia Dragoons, 12th Regiment, P Canadian Mounted Rifles, perpetuated by the South Alberta Light Horse, 13th Regiment, P Canadian Mounted Rifles, perpetuated by the South Alberta Light Horse.